So we're back here at the bench, and we're going to be working on testing some of the capacitors that I have stripped off this receiver surround sound board, processing board. This is off a Luxman RV-371, and this thing has many issues. As you can see, I've ran some jumpers, and I made a few previous videos about this, so if you're interested, check those out, and you'll see how I got to this point. And I basically found a couple capacitors that were in question over here, where I've heated with a heat gun while it was operating, and I've got my center channel back. So I stripped all the caps off this board because I suspected that if these two are bad, then the rest of them are probably not too far behind, or there may be more that are in the same condition. And I think there was like around between 60 and 70 capacitors on this board, and yeah, it took about maybe, I don't know, maybe an hour to strip them off, maybe less, I don't know. But here they are, they're all right here, and I'm going to go through, and we're gonna test some of these. I may test half a dozen or a dozen or so, and show you how I go through the process of testing capacitors and what we use. Alright, so I have a Peak Atlas LCR model LCR40 capacitance meter. Now what this will do is, this is not an ESR meter. This just strictly tells you capacitance, resistance, or inductance. That's all this thing does. If you're looking for ESR, this is not what you want. But if you're looking to get a value out of a cap, then this is more than enough. So I told you before in another video, don't trust these testing capacitors for stability. And I'm going to show you this. What I use is an ESR meter. Most of the time, if I'm just probing around, because these have the nice SMD clips on this meter here, so this makes it a little bit easier. If I go and find a bunch of capacitors that I want to test just quickly, I'll go through and find if the values are at their value. I will pretty much just move on until I find something that's lower, and then I will use this. But the problem was with this board was I was using this and this together, and I was getting low readings on this, and this wasn't even registering, and I was getting correct readings on this and no readings on it. Was just way all over the board. That kind of suspected me, kind of gave me the clue to strip this board down and see what's going on with these capacitors, because this thing should be able to test these capacitors in circuit most of the time. I wouldn't say 100% of the time, but I'd say most of the time. So we're going to test a few of these here, and these little surface mount capacitors can be really tricky to troubleshoot. They don't give you the signature bulge like the regular electrolytics do. The only thing you can tell is if they leak, and that's about it. And let me tell you, I don't think I've ever seen these leak all that much. You might see a little bit of corrosion around the legs as a good indicator, but other than that, these things don't really bulge like the regular electrolytics do, the through-hole versions. Alright, so these little small ones are pretty much almost all 10 microfarad at 16 volt. So the little line, black line on these capacitors is obviously the negative, and if you flip it over, there's a flat spot on that side, and then there's like a couple corners cut off on the positive side. So when you flip it upside down, you want to make sure you polarize correctly when you're using this meter. ESR meter does not matter polarity, hence the two red leads that it came with when I built it. And so we're going to test this first cap here, and we're going to make sure that we're polarized correctly, and we're going to see what it says. 9 microfarad, 9.037. Okay, that's almost 10. We're going to leave that in the partially good pile. Alright, and now there's another one. .7 picofarad. That one's junk. 7 microfarad. So these ones are still partially alive. $127 picofarad. Junk. $8 microfarad, partially alive. I want to find one that says 10, just so I can show you. Eight. This is not looking good so far, huh? 109 picofarad. Now you're kind of understanding why I stripped them. Because if I just replaced those 2 capacitors, I would have been chasing this thing. This thing would have came, if if it worked, the repair worked, and I gave it back to the guy, he would have came back 2 weeks later and say, "Hey, this thing's screwed up again. What the hell?" You know, I don't like to hear that. .23 nano. Yeah, these are dog shit. I'm surprised it worked I'm surprised the damn thing turned on. Wow. Alright, give me a 10 mic. Oh, 9. That's probably the closest so far. .3 picofarad. Alright, so I think we're seeing a pattern evolve here. It's just, this is ridiculous. See how you can move fast with this meter versus the other with the current set of leads installed on it. I might modify that so I can actually fit these little leads on here too. Six microfarad. Wow, this is just unbelievable. Now I can see why all this damage happened. All right, 9.279. Okay, we're gonna just stop here for a minute. Okay, these 2 capacitors are over 9 microfarad. You know, they're 10 mic caps. Okay, if you had saw those 2 capacitors and read that value, you'd probably say, yeah, it's close enough. They're probably fine. Now the ESR charts. The ESR chart says at 16 volt, 10 microfarad, you don't want less than 1.6. Okay, so 1.6 or better is a cap that you would consider good. So we're gonna put these to the test, and we'll see what you get. .7. Junk. I saw 8 point something on here. 7.3. Junk. Now let's read some of the lower value ones. These were like 6 and 5 and 4 or whatever. Just they were giving you something, but I really do need to make a set of leads for this. That doesn't even read. Okay? It doesn't even read. And of course, that doesn't read. That doesn't read. Nothing. Alright, so I can probably just go through here and just find something that I get a number on. Wow, this is terrible. I've never seen a batch of bad caps on one board like this before. These are just atrocious. And I really hope these aren't Panasonic brands. I don't know what they are. They're probably some One Hung Low brand. This is back in the early 90s when this stuff was just starting. This SMD crap was really first, started being used a bit more. Oh, okay, 7.1 I saw right there. Alright, let's take this meter here and see what it says. This is probably going to be my guess. This is probably at 7.4. As we got a reading with the judgment of what we've seen so far, it's probably going to be around between 8 and 9. Yeah, whoa, look at that one. 10.76. Better than rated. Better than rated. ESR says throw it the fuck out. Okay? So this is it. This is what I try to prove here. This is what's going to save you guys a lot of time and save you from a headache. I stress it enough. I can't stress it enough. Please, just spend a couple of bucks and buy an ESR meter. Don't rely on these. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and maybe we'll catch you when I get the new capacitors in, and we'll throw them on the board and see what happens when we put it in the receiver. Maybe we'll let the magic smoke out. Who knows? Alright, stay tuned with the next one.